After 13 years, 8 victories, 32 podiums and 3 pole positions, it looks very likely that the Singapore Grand Prix was Daniel Ricciardo's last ever race in Formula 1. That's because over the Singapore Grand Prix weekend, Ricciardo's future really was the talk of the town, as it's been well documented and well speculated that Singapore could be his last ever outing, as he's set to be dropped for the rest of the season to be replaced by Liam Lawson. Now, while there has been no official confirmation from Red Bull themselves, everyone, including Ricciardo himself, seems resigned to the fact that eventually this will be made official. There will be a public comment from Red Bull that will confirm that Ricciardo will be dropped for the rest of the season, the final 6 races, and this could very much spell the end to his time in Formula 1. So let's talk about this in a little bit more depth and what it means for Ricciardo going forward. As we all know, Ricciardo has been known to have been under pressure to show that he is deserving for a seat in Formula 1 going into 2025. But his results, particularly this season, have not been up to Red Bull standards. It's no secret, and the stats and the standings will back this up because they do not lie, that he has been outperformed far too often by his RB teammate Yuki Tsunoda this season. Although in the race head-to-head he is only 9-8 down on Yuki, it's in qualifying where Tsunoda really has had the upper hand on Daniel, leading that particular battle 12-6. So in order to prove to Red Bull's hierarchy that he was worthy of a recall to the team that he left at the end of 2018, Ricciardo really did need to be beating Tsunoda more often than not, but that just simply has not played out this season. Now, the main reason that Ricciardo went back to Red Bull as a third driver in 2023 after his early exit from McLaren was effectively to try and work his way back into the Red Bull cockpit. This really was the main motivation of his for simply staying in the F1 circle rather than going and racing elsewhere in another series should an opportunity arise. But as Ricciardo has put it himself, the fairy tale simply did not work out as he planned. And with Sergio Perez now looking a lot more seemingly secure in his seat and a flurry of Red Bull juniors coming through the ranks, Ricciardo's days really do look numbered. I would also say that there is quite a lot of pressure on Red Bull to try and find a seat for Lawson, especially after he was so impressive during his standing appearances, ironically in place of Ricciardo last season. And of course it has been reported that Red Bull's option on Lawson to promote him to an F1 seat expires at the end of September. But there are also further reports that Lawson's contract also includes for him to race in at least 5 Grand Prix in 2024, which could also be a factor behind the decision to drop Ricciardo for these final 6 rounds, if that is indeed confirmed. And I think that this way it gives the chance for Red Bull to evaluate if Lawson is the right choice for them to give him a full-time seat in 2025, and indeed if they feel that he is actually good enough to be in the senior Red Bull team alongside Max Verstappen in place of Checo. But while I think, and I think we can all agree on this, that Lawson absolutely should be given a drive, regardless of whether it's in the RB, whether it's in the Red Bull, and the decision to drop Ricciardo based on his results is justified. But what I do not agree with is how Red Bull have handled this situation. I think it really has been extremely poor. I mean, from the Thursday onwards in Singapore, Ricciardo spent most of that weekend answering question after question regarding his future, and he was unable to give any of the media a definitive answer as to what would be happening in the near future. All he said was he simply acknowledged that this could be it. I could be out of Formula 1 forever. And particularly during his interview with Lawrence Barretto for F1 TV, he got visibly emotional and choked up, and it really was a difficult watch to see him get so emotional, knowing that he could be out of Formula 1 not just for next year but altogether. When he was asked about the Ricciardo situation after the Grand Prix, Red Bull boss Christian Horner effectively said that the 4-week break between now and the next race in Austin would be used by Red Bull to sit down and to discuss what kind of course of action they would take regarding Ricciardo's future. And the more I think about it, the more I think that this really is a case of bad mismanagement. I mean, surely there was an opportunity for them to put out a statement on the Thursday in Singapore that Daniel would be out the car for the remaining races, and that way that would have removed all of the uncertainty and given both him and everyone a clear indication of where his future lied. In that respect, it does really seem like it's a real stab in the back to Ricciardo and very disrespectful towards him, especially as he's a driver that's been a part of the Red Bull family over 2 separate stints, and he's won 7 Grand Prix with them over his career. I mean, after all, Red Bull were the ones who put him back on the grid last year after being so impressed with his lap times during that test that he did at Silverstone in the Red Bull car. I do understand from people's point of view that, Formula 1 is brutal. It's called the Piranha Club for a reason, and there are other drivers that have been through the same situation as Ricciardo, where they have suddenly found themselves out of a drive. But I feel that, the fact that Ricciardo will likely now not get a proper send-off, and this is how his Formula 1 career is seemingly going to end. He deserves much more than that. He doesn't deserve to leave on a sour note. He deserves a good send-off from all of the fans, all of the teams that he's driven for, all of the drivers who clearly have a lot of time and respect for him. If we look at Ricciardo's Singapore Grand Prix weekend as a whole, if it is indeed going to be his last race, this performance really was almost a summary of the struggles that he's had over the past few years. I mean, RB looked extremely fast on Friday, and Ricciardo even talked up the fact that he could even maybe have an outside chance of fighting for a podium, but he would end up being knocked out in Q1, and the strategy that he had on Sunday for the race really did not work out, and in the end he finished last of all the classified runners, down in 18th. RB did decide in the end to pit Ricciardo for a fresh set of soft tyres to go for the fastest lap on the final lap, and he would actually manage this, and in doing so it's caused a bit of controversy because he crucially and somewhat controversially took the fastest lap point away from Lando Norris, his former teammate at McLaren, to give his friend and other former teammate Max Verstappen a slightly healthier lead in the championship. I think what's sad about this is the fact that what should have been a nice moment for Ricciardo to be given the opportunity to go for a fastest lap on what could prove to be his final ever lap in a Formula 1 car is now been overshadowed by the fact that McLaren aren't too happy that Red Bull has possibly ordered their sister car to take the fastest lap point away from Norris, and now this has all brought up this controversy over Red Bull owning two teams and being able to instruct or order RB to do this kind of thing, and whether having this kind of influence on another team should be allowed. So if that does prove to be Ricciardo's final act in a Formula 1 car, I think it really would be a sad and anticlimactic way to finish what really has been a solid career, that although it never quite reached the heights that it looked destined to, it is of a driver whose smile and charisma really did make him a real fan favourite. Be sure to let me know what your thoughts are on today's topic in the comment section, and also feel free to let me know what are your favourite moments of Daniel Ricciardo's Formula 1 career. But that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like the video and to subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you for the next one. Goodbye.